As on the previous evening, Bavragor sits apart from the others. But tonight, he waves you over.
Smeralda, my sister. You want to know what happened, right?
You nod and sit down.
She followed Boindle into battle. We tried to talk her out of it, but she was as unyielding as a mountain. Then came the day when the High Pass was attacked.
Bavragor drinks from his liquor.
He killed her. Blinded by the frenzy of battle, he thought she was one of the enemy. I can never forgive him. He killed my sister. Could you?
You inevitably remember the loss of Lot Yonan, Frala, and her children. You remain sitting in silence, each of you deep in thought. Boendal approaches, having either heard you or guessing what you are talking about.
His fierce life forge is a curse. He thought the orcs had robbed him of his love, and the ire came over him. Sometimes he calls her name in his dreams. Oh, he'd never admit it, but he suffers just like Bavragor. He too loved her.
The stonemason doesn't react, so you and Boendal go back to the others by the fire. A two-story tavern sits on the corner of a crossroads. The snow around the building has been cleared away, and a warm light is coming from inside. The sign above the door reads, Minstrel Castle.
Minstrel Castle? That sounds promising.
The old building has nothing in common with a castle. It seems rather nondescript. A simple tavern for simple people.
Finally! Time for ale! My throat is completely parched.
As much as I hate agreeing with you, I too can hardly wait.
You enter the tavern with Bavragor and Boindil in front. On first impression, the interior is as inconspicuous as the outside. But when you take a closer look, you spot a couple of paintings of minstrels in front of a castle, a small stage that, judging by the dust, is only very rarely used, and a lute hanging on the wall behind the bar. There are not very many guests on the ground floor, perhaps a dozen, and most of them belong to a group of mercenaries who have retreated into the far corner. You sit at a table, and after a while you are brought the ale that Boindil has ordered. You go to the bar where the landlady is working and sit on a stool. The landlady, a stout, middle-aged woman with long hair tied in a ponytail, looks up briefly but says nothing.
Say, why is the tavern called Minstrel Castle? It doesn't look much like a castle.
Oh, you don't know the legend, dwarf.
One of the guests next to you at the bar takes up your question.
There was a castle here once. No one knows its name anymore, so everyone just calls it Minstrel Castle. Once upon a time, a king lived in that castle. He had many subjects and an enchanting queen. But one day a young minstrel came along and sang of wonderful far-off lands, and the subjects began to complain about their own lives. So the king sent for the singer to hear for himself. He came and sang a wonderful love song, and the king began to be scared. He thought that the minstrel wanted to steal away his queen. Without flinching, he drew his sword and struck the boy down. His father heard of this. He was himself a singer. And so he went to the king and played a terrible song, a curse. The king was to vanish in silence, and no one was to remember his name.
And that's what happened. No one remembers the name of the king or his castle. Make of it what you will. The story's certainly well known enough in the area to give Arin its name.
You nod at the landlady as you slip off the bar stool, and she nods back. Bavragor and Boindil, who are absorbed in a drinking competition, have to be practically dragged out of the tavern. But in the end, you are able to continue your journey. You enter. You go. You know, Bavragor. You arrive at an empty jetty on Lake Anteria. You can see several fishing boats on the lake, and there's a small village on the other shore.
Ah, Pulbrook. What an idyllic little place. And then there's the miller's daughter.
You turn around and continue on your journey. The size of the fields and the farmsteads grow as you get closer to Ferenciensis, the old border city in the north. The old city wall is much too small for the size of today's settlement. Everywhere little cottages, and even the odd magnificent estate, extend beyond the wall.
The house that Henson was talking about must be somewhere on the south wall. We need the bell if we're going to open the path through the mountains.
You follow the street to an estate on the south wall, which is surrounded by a fence. The paved path to the door is lined with hydrangea. You knock on the door gently, and after a while it is opened by a chubby man in expensive clothes. The man gives you a fleeting glance.
We don't want to buy anything.
He intends to close the door again without waiting for your answer.
Wait! I've been told you have a rare bell? Fire Eater.
The man pauses.
Fire Eater? How?
Before he can finish what he's saying, a red-haired woman pushes past him. She is also wearing expensive clothes and is heavily made up. After she gives him a stern look, the man disappears into the house. She scrutinizes you with greenish-blue eyes.
How do you know about that, Shorty?
A man called Henson.
Henson? The vagabond that broke into our house? Now he's sending groundlings to assassinate us and steal our belongings. What did he tell you? That we have gold, jewels?
No. Henson is our adversary. We want to snatch the bell away from under his nose.
The woman's eyes pierce through you. You manage with great effort to resist her gaze.
I'd like to get that ugly thing out of the house. All right, then. I'll sell you the bell for 500 gold pieces.
500 gold coins. All right, then.
The woman takes the pouch of gold from you with a broad grin and disappears through the door, which slams shut with a loud bang.
Hello?
Have you been duped? It dawns on you that you haven't yet seen the bell. The door opens again. The man of the house pushes out a wheelbarrow containing a large object inside a sack.
May Fire Eater bring you great pleasure.
The man dumps the bell on the floor with a muffled bong. He seems anything but happy that his wife has sold the bell. In the middle of the path in front of you, you see an upended wagon, but neither draft animals nor owner are in sight. You approach carefully, but still can't make anything out from close up, apart from a few arrows sticking into the side of the wagon.
Perhaps we should.
Before you can finish what you're saying, the screams of a woman come from the nearby woods. Without giving it much thought, you rush off towards the screaming. After a short sprint through the forest, you arrive at a small clearing. Standing in the middle of it is a woman in a simple peasant dress, who's being threatened by 2 armed men. You step forward confidently.
Hey!
The 2 men turn around immediately. The woman stands up too, and draws a weapon herself. 3 swords are aimed at you, and Namora has some more bad news for you.
There are archers in the trees. It's a trap.
Hey! Give us your provisions and your gold too!
We are seasoned dwarves and have killed hundreds of orcs. Do you want to see what Boindeel here can do with his axes?
Your words seem to have completely floored the thieves. The woman answers for them.
You don't scare us, groundling.
You give Rodario a sign. He nods, gets into position, and then fires off a jet of flame from his sleeve in the direction of the thieves. Without another word, the thieves take to their heels and run into the forest.
Should we follow them?
Let them go. We don't have time to waste on them.
Your path leads you to a small fishing village on the banks of Lake Ontario. The villagers are busy and don't pay you much attention, apart from a fisherman on a boat who nods at you before returning to his nets. You can just about make out a jetty on the other side of the lake. You leave Polebrook and continue on your journey. The all too familiar stench of tallow and grease reaches your nose. You know what this means.
On my way! He hardly put up a fight! Ha ha! Yeah, he hardly put up a fight! And again! Ha ha! Ah! Ah!
Vile creature!
Too easy! Who's next? All right, and again.
Yes, first, Nully.
On my way. All right. Yes. Who's next? Huh? Kill! He hardly put up a fight!
Another one bites the dust.
What is it?
I didn't hit you very hard.
Disgusting.
As good as done.
Kill.
Pow! Another one bites the dust. What is it?
He hardly put up a fight.
Don't take it personally.
Of course!
And again. Vile creature.
Get up.
Kill. What's up?
And what now?
Vile creature. A bit too much for you,
Huh?
While the others take care of their wounds, you find a brown, well cared for leather bag. You are certain the bag hadn't belonged to an orc, and inside you actually find a decorated ox skull.
This will please Henson.
With this, you are a step closer to a way through the mountains, or a huge disappointment. When you enter the strongly fortified mountain village, you see a large group of miners standing around a shaft in heated discussion.
I really saw him, I swear!
A young man in mining clothes defiantly stares at an older man who is a good head taller than him.
Even if you did, smashing the lift hoist, it would have been better to have not sent the cage down again until we cleared this thing up.
Is there a problem?
The older man, perhaps a foreman, is so angry that he hardly seems to have realized that he's talking to a dwarf.
Mika here says that he saw orcs in the mine, and he smashed the lift hoist to bits. The cage has crashed to the bottom of the shaft. How are we supposed to work now?
Can we help you somehow?
Help? Well, we'll have to repair the hoist, and we need a new cage.
The foreman turns to a man next to him for answers. He's just as muscular, with dirty, calloused hands and an angular face.
It will take at least 2 weeks, but we don't need any help, unless you can speed up time.
I'll need 1 day. 2 at the most, if there are problems.
The foreman looks aghast at the Technicus, unsure whether he's joking or not.
1 day? Have you got any idea how...
Fergus is the most talented Magister Technicus in Girdlegard. And anyway, what have you got to lose? Let him help.
As long as he doesn't get in my way,
The worker shrugs his shoulders.
why not?
Good, we'll help you. And we don't want anything in return.
Ooh, that's generous.
The foreman looks at you distrustfully. He's the sort of person who doesn't like being indebted to others. Fergus immediately gets to work examining the hoist. After a few moments, he sends Mika off with a list of tools and spare parts, and explains to you how to build the cage, while he takes care of the hoist's rustic mechanism. After half a day, the cage is operational again, but Fergus is still busy with the hoist. You just hear him muttering.
So far, there is no automatic brake in case the ropes snap, but it shouldn't be too hard to fit one.
Fergus decides to fit the automatic brake, but it takes more time than expected. Building the hoist from scratch would have been simple, but the upgrade turns out to be complicated. In the end, it takes 2 days until the lift is operational again. After the work is done, you report to the foreman. A huge grin spreads across the foreman's face. You have just saved him a lot of time and effort.
We can't let you leave empty-handed. Here, at least take some provisions for your journey. And if you ever need some extra brute force against the orcs, I'm sure we can find 10 men who'd be happy to learn from you.
You travel down into the mine in the repaired lift. Mika shows you the place where he saw the orcs, and you follow the winding gallery. After 1,000 paces, you stopped counting, and only after several hours do you reach an exit. There's a stench of tallow in the air. The tunnel leads directly into a huge orc camp, which blocks the pass into Snowdale Valley. If you attacked from here, you'd have the element of surprise on your side.
I could go and take a look and perhaps improve our chances for an attack.
You remember how the actor had transformed himself into Lot Yonin and Nudin in Mifidania. You certainly wouldn't bet against him being able to walk through the orc camp unnoticed.
I'll come with you. If I stay in the shadows, they won't see me.
The actor nods gratefully. The village seems You enter Seaton. The priest. You nod. The old ruins of Wackenstein appear before you.
Henson, do you have a minute?
Have you found Elga?
Henson, I heard you tried to steal the bell.
What, steal? No, I wanted to borrow it. But I had less luck with that red-haired witch than you.
See you later, Henson.
Let me know if you see Elga.
All right. Something's not quite right. A bracket on which you could hang something. Must be for the bell that Henson mentioned. Fits like a glove.
Loud and powerful music follows the fog and the figures, crushing over your head in roaring waves. The force of the music clouds your senses, and it seems as if the statue of the blind guardian rises from his throne. You want to draw your companion's attention to it, but then you suddenly realize that you have a tankard of ale in your hand. You instinctively try it, and are happy to note that you haven't drunk such good ale since Ogre's death. The night becomes a colourful whirl of ale, music, dance and ecstasy. You can no longer remember why you're here or who you're celebrating with. For a few hours you forget what was and what is to come. You are completely in the here and now. You wake up the next morning. You're lying on your back and staring into a sky that is much too bright. You turn onto your side with difficulty and see your companions all around you, but no one else. The remains of a wild party, campfires, tents, and ale tankards are still there, but the magic has gone. You stand up, muttering curses, and try to suppress the taste in your mouth and the pain in your head. To your great surprise, you see that the stony figure of the blind guardian has revealed a tunnel that leads into the rock of the mountain. The village seems much... The orc camp is still very imposing, with its hosts of orcs and robust fortifications. An attack will be difficult, but Nomura and Rodario are prepared to infiltrate the camp and weaken it.
Listen, try to sabotage their defences, and if you can safely take out a couple of guards, then do it. But don't take any big risks. Come back here if things get too hairy.
Nomura and Rodario rejoin you without any particular urgency. The infiltration was a complete success. No one detected the two of them. You enter the orc camp with your companions. You have a long way ahead of you.
Huh? What is it?
At your service.
Huh? What is it? Yes? And what
Yes.
now? What is it? What is it?
Huh?
And what now?
Yes. Your demise was inevitable.
Huh? Who's next? Yes? What is it? I didn't hit you very Ow! Another one!
Another victory! At your service.
Please wait a moment. And what now?
Vile creature.
What is it? Pretty hard. What is it?
I need help over here. Quickly.
I didn't hit you very hard. And what now? Too easy. I didn't hit you very hard. Yes, again.
At your service. Oh.
Ow! Hey! I need help over here. Quickly. Another one. Boink, boink, little piggies.
Vile creature.
And what now?
At your service. Oh.
Yaha!
Another victory. Your demise is
Oink,
inevitable.
oink, little piggies! Yes?
Yes!
At your service.
What is it?
What is it? He hardly put up a fight. Put up a fight!
All right, I understand.
Who's next?
Yes?
Another victory?
Who's next? On my way! Yes?
Die?
Yaha! Huh? And what now? As good as done.
Yes? I can't do that yet.
Another victory?
And again.
Your demise.
Here, put up a fight. I didn't hit you very hard.
Die?
Yes? And what now?
And again.
I didn't hit you very hard. Easy. Yes,
Creature.
and what now? What is it?
Oh, killed.
I didn't hit you very hard.
And again.
Huh? What is it?
Oink, oink, little piggies! Who's on my way? All right, with you, Glenn. What is it? What now? Oink, oink, little piggies! Ow! Yes. Hey! Oink, oink, little piggies!
Another!
I'll be ready soon!
What is it? At your service.
Pow! Another one bites the dust! Yes!
Oh,
Too easy!
at your service.
And what now? Pow! Another one bites the dust! Huh? On my way!
All right, I understand.
On my way!
Choice.
What is it?
Oh, yes.
What is it? Pow! Another one bites the dust! Now!
Well,
Who's next? Yes? And what now? Pow! Another one bites the dust. Who's next?
Yes.
As good as
I understand.
all right.
Yes, glad.
On my way.
Step.
A hard path lies ahead of you, down into the valley and then up into the snow-covered mountains. It will be difficult, if not impossible, to climb back afterwards. You should be sure that you've made all the necessary preparations before you continue. The village seems much emptier than on your last visit. Most of the workers must now be underground. A hard path. You reach a large frozen lake surrounded by a thick pine forest. The quickest way would be to walk straight over the ice, but you don't know how stable it is. The detour through the forest would be safer, but would also take much longer. The snow between the trees is deep, and you make very slow progress. The shadows are growing longer, and when you finally make it through the woods, it's already the dead of night.
Perhaps we should set up camp here before we wind up getting lost.
It makes more sense to set up camp for the night than to wander through the woods in the dark. You light a huge fire, and the next morning you set off again, fully rested. While you rest under a ledge at noon, Rodario and Fergus decide to go ice fishing, and the dwarves immediately pronounce their opposition.
Ice and water are both treacherous. They entice you to them. Before you know it, you disappear into them forever.
Like in a marriage, you mean? At first the woman entices you, but if you stay in her arms like a good boy, the good life is over all too quickly.
The good life, in which you go behind the backs of other men, get beaten up, and one day die painfully of a sexually transmitted disease.
All slander, my dear.
Rodario bares his teeth for a moment and then follows Fergus to the shore.
He reminds me of a billy goat we used to have. Mounted everything that got in its way. One day, he mounted a goat that was standing too close to a cliff. The two of them fell down the cliff in the best of spirits.
It snows all day, and the cold wind continues to get stronger. The dwarves trudge stubbornly on, but at some point Fergus can take it no longer.
Oh, we are walking right into the eye of a blizzard. We have snowstorms in the Brown Range too. If you get caught in a storm while hunting, you simply wait it out in a snow cave.
The blizzard will be on us before we can build a snow cave. We should look for a sheltered spot and light a fire.
You have no time to lose and continue on your way. With every step, the storm becomes more intense, and before you know it, you've completely lost all visibility. And without protection, you quickly feel the cold penetrating your bones. It becomes clear that you won't be able to continue your march in these conditions. You huddle up between the roots of some large trees, the best protection you can find in the storm. Fergus tries to light an alchemic fire, but the flames are blown out by the storm after only a few seconds. The next morning, you continue on your journey, half frozen. Your path leads you over a snowy, hilly plain, and as you scale a particularly steep hill, you falter. A crevasse opens out in front of you. You look around, but there isn't any point nearby where you could cross over the gap. You follow the course of the crevasse. After an hour, the end of the crevasse is still not in sight. However, you do find a cave that slopes down softly parallel to the crevasse. You are afraid that you might get lost in the ice cave and freeze to death in misery. But ultimately, your curiosity is rewarded. You find after an hour's search a winding passage that leads you to a large chamber. You walk ahead with your torch outstretched and see a shadow in the ice. You step backwards in shock as you realize that it's the body of a frozen human. Something glittering in the floor grabs Goimgar's attention. An ornamented gold shield. Part of it is frozen into the ice, but it should be easy to free.
Pure gold! This thing must be worth quite a bit, though it would be completely useless in a fight.
Wouldn't that be like tomb raiding?
Your companion doesn't answer. You allow Goimgar to free the shield from its icy prison. After you've had a look around the rest of the chamber and taken a short break, you look for a way back up to the surface. You are able to continue on your way without any further delay. You finally arrive at the entrance to a valley that curves its way towards Ironhald, the firstling stronghold.
By Vracus, we've done it! Get down!
Up there!
Run! I can't maintain the spell for long!
Put him on Goimgar's shield. To the gate. Quick!
As you approach the first gate, you see guards on the battlements. You call as you run.
By Vracus, we are dwarves of the kingdoms of the secondlings and the fourthlings. Open the gate!
Their leader gives orders that you cannot hear, but moments later, the gate opens up for you.
Report back! Man the walls and the defences!
The guards follow the orders immediately.
Who are you that lead the Alpha to our door?
How dare you speak to us like that? Dwarf who seems to have no name?
Boindale steps forward before you can stop him.
I am Boindale Doubleblade, a child of the smith of Barrowen folk. And that is my brother Boindal, who needs a healer immediately.
The commander pulls down his scarf, and his face leaves you speechless.
Only a dwarf could make such a fuss. Ballinder Steelfinger. I protect the main gate of the firstlings, therefore it is my duty to regard all guests precisely before I invite them in.
But you are a woman.
You have a keen eye, Boindale Doubleblade.
The tender features and soft fluff leave no room for doubt. A female dwarf is the commander of the guard. She gives orders for the injured Boindale to be taken care of. 4 dwarves pick him up on his shield, and Boindale follows them.
Stay with your brother. I will bring the rest of you to Queen Zamtis, where you can explain what you're doing here.
Come closer, and be welcome to the kingdom of the firstlings.
I am Tungdil Goldhand of the Fourthling Kingdom.
You introduce your companions one by one, not forgetting to mention the twins and the Mager too. You then explain the reason for your visit. You report on the advance of the Perish land, the death of the Magi, and the dispute about the next High King. The dark brown eyes of the Queen fix on you for a moment before she speaks.
What you report sounds very serious, Tungdil. You can be sure of the support of the firstlings. How may we assist you?
There is only one way to defeat Nodon. Keenfire. To forge it, we need the best smith your kingdom has to offer. Help us, and thus help your kingdom, my queen.
The Queen considers, then nods.
So be it. Could there ever be a better time to revive the old commonality of the kingdoms? Ballandis here is not only my best warrior, she is also my best smith. She will accompany you.
Your eyes fall upon Ballandis, and you notice the blood rushing to your cheeks.
I will do my best. You can trust in my axe and my hammer.
We must continue on our journey to the Fifthlings in the Grey Range.
Then I will show you the entrance to the tunnels. You will be in the Perish land within a few orbits.
You know the tunnels, but still the Firstlings live in seclusion.
Our isolation was self-imposed. My mother knew that the other kingdoms would not simply accept her as the queen. She wanted to give them time to get used to it.
Your Highness, in the name of the Council of the Kingdoms, I request that you send a delegation to the Blue Range to take part in the discussions. We all have a common enemy.
There has never been any enmity between my kingdom and the others. It was more neglected friendship and habit that has made us strangers to one another. As soon as you set off for the Grey Range, we will head east to see our brothers and sisters again. I will have rooms prepared for you and your companions so that you can rest. It has been some time since we have had guests, but we still know what hospitality means. Come to me when you are ready to depart.